We are Cactus Wrestling. Make sure you hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss out on future videos.
Welcome back.
To Cactus Wrestling.
Yeah, here we are. So this is a fun topic near and dear to Mike's heart, so he'll kick it off.
So, as some of you guys know, Penn State is a pretty good wrestling team. Typically pretty successful in all but one weight class. Some might even say it's a cursed weight class for them, 125.
They only got Nico Megaludis.
That's it. And then they were like, oh, Nick Suriano, but then the Suriano curse.
Yeah. Unfortunate for them.
Kale and company is committed to breaking this curse, though. Mike and I were just talking.
It's crazy how much effort when you actually look into it, like that they've actually put in. I didn't realize how much that they've been putting into it. It's interesting for sure.
It's insane. So currently on the roster for Penn State is Kurt McHenry. I'll go in no particular order, but Gary Steen, Robbie Howard, and Braden Davis. Add in that you also have Marco Vespa, Brandon Wenzel, and that's on their roster.
Yeah.
So
6 guys on the roster.
And again, all these guys, I mean, I know Marco Vespa's brother, freak athlete, super crazy wrestler, Vinny. Robbie Howard, multiple age level medalist in freestyle. Kurt McHenry, multiple age level medalist. Braden Davis, multiple time, he was a very high nationally ranked wrestler. Gary Steen, very high nationally ranked wrestler. I mean, these guys could all be starters at any other college.
I mean, I don't know about any, but
well, just about.
I feel like a good amount. Like Sacred Heart could use a boost.
Oh yeah. Additionally, they have with their NLWC, Kale Nasdio, who is taking like an Olympic gray shirt, not a gap year. Like he's not with the roster yet, but he's competing for NLWC in freestyle.
So that's 7 125s rolling around.
Again, Kale was a huge recruit back then. I think that if I had to pull it up, Braden Davis was the number 42 ranked guy for his class. Kale was the number 91 ranked for his class. Brandon was an unranked guy, so he wasn't in the top 100. And that was all from last season's, big board. That was the 2023 NCAA recruiting class.
And the crazy thing to having all of these recruits is you think, oh, maybe you have a bunch of these guys are seniors. McHenry's the only senior.
Yeah.
There's one guy of this is going to be gone for next year.
Throw eligibility out the window completely. No one even knows anymore. It's a crapshoot. And so they said, nah, we're not trusting that they'll get it done with those 6. We're going to bring in even more guys. We have Luke Lillidahl and Mason Gibson from the same recruiting class of 2024. Lillidahl's been wrestling 26. Gibson's been wrestling 33. I think that if push comes to shove and they said, hey, like, do you want to be on this 25 roster? Mason Gibson would make the cut. He's not an overly tall wrestler. He's very
let's have an 8-man bracket here to see who gets to be the freaking 25 for Penn State.
But it just got deeper. Now,
what do you mean deeper?
You have number 3 at 120, Nathan Desmond from Wyoming Seminary.
So this is arguably the top recruit. Well,
so Penn State actually is getting better guys. No offense to they have PJ Duke in the same recruiting class, so that's their big prize.
No, I mean at of all the guys listed, is that's the highest ranked guy, or is Lillidahl ranked higher?
Lillidahl's higher.
Yeah, so they got Lillidahl, and now they got a guy that's like right near Lillidahl.
Yep. It's kind of insane. So, for those of you guys that don't know, Nathan Desmond just committed recently to Penn State. Another big pickup for the team. He's a junior right now, so he has time to grow. I've watched Nathan Desmond. I'm a huge fan of the Bishop McCourt guys, maybe even a little biased in saying that. So I've watched him wrestle like Bo and Jax. And so I've gotten to see him as a wrestler from both sides now. But he was a 2-time Pennsylvania State champion, freshman, sophomore year. He just transferred to Wyoming Seminary. His practice partner is the Luke Lillidahl, who he'll probably be competing with to get a spot with at Penn State.
Would it be like if Leo DeLuca decided to go to Cornell to be with
to be with Knox.
Yeah, to be with Knox.
Um, so Desmond was he took third at Ironman this season. Took second to Super 32, beating a U17 world medalist Christian Castillo. He did lose in the finals to Anthony Knox, who had a great Super 32. Um, Last year he took fourth at Fargo in freestyle. What else did he do recently? He wrestled at the first that I know of, at least, National Wrestling Hall of Fame duels for high school, which was awesome. He was undefeated throughout that event. Uh, I think the switch from him to Wyoming Seminary is great. I think his trajectory is that he's a smaller guy. He's a junior 120, while Lilidal is a senior 126. So they're really putting all their chips in, like, hey, like we're gonna get a guy we're gonna get an All-American at 125 if it kills us.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you're clearly putting in a lot of effort if you got nearly 10 guys deep at
Yeah, I mean
one weight class.
they have, doing all the numbers, they have 10 guys. Like they have more than enough to run an 8-man bracket.
Yeah, that's wild. I mean, and you can tell they're putting a lot of effort into it because these are all underclassmen. Like they're
Yeah.
clearly trying to get someone that can All-American or better at this weight. Because I mean, if you look at the rest of the squad, pretty much all of them are contenders in some aspect to, at minimum, be an All-American.
I'm waiting for them to pull the trigger on the big one though and say, hey, Marcus Blaze, come wrestle.
You think they're gonna go for Marcus?
I I wouldn't be surprised. Um,
You don't think Marcus wants to go to Purdue with his bro?
I don't know.
They could be upsetting people left and right together.
I also think that Jax Forrest is going to go to Penn State. Um,
Yeah, that's great. Just keep on adding more guys into this
I've
mix.
I've said this before. I think Bo Bassett and Jax Forrest are both going to end up at Penn State. That could be a whole separate video. And people go, well, what? That's crazy. Why would you want to be there? It goes, well, why wouldn't you? They win like a lot. It's super close. They live in Pennsylvania. They
Yeah,
train
but
at M2.
all
Like,
of
why
these
would you?
guys can't start.
Well, as a very great Macho Man Randy Savage once said, the cream will rise to the top.
Yeah, but if you're not the cream, what do you? I feel like someone's gonna eventually have to transfer.
We've talked about this in previous videos, though. Penn State, for whatever reason, does such a good job managing this that they can afford to have 10 guys either currently on their roster or committed, all in the same weight class, and no one want to transfer out. I mean, you had Kurt McHenry just transfer in.
Yeah,
Like
sure.
Penn State, great academic school. Um, their freestyle team is insane. Their wrestling folk style is insane. Their room is just great to be a part of. I mean, all these Penn State guys talk about, even guys that transferred in like Kyle Cannell or Max Dean, or even more recently, we've had Mitch Messenbrink and where is he from? 184, Bernie Truex.
Oh yeah,
They talk about like the culture here is so different. They're like, I don't know why I didn't come here earlier. Like for whatever reason, Penn State's water or whatever, these guys are
the
willing to be
water.
like,
Yeah,
yeah, I don't.
it's the water. It has nothing to do with the coaching staff
There's
or
something in the water or
environment
whatever.
created there. It's just the water.
There, for whatever reason, these guys want to be there, and they want to be
A
at
part of
Penn
it.
State, even if they're not the starter, even if they're not the guy. I mean, there's so many guys on Penn State's roster. Like I've never even heard of this guy, and then you'll see interviews, and he's like, man, I wouldn't want to be anywhere else. It's crazy. For somehow, some way, they're able to manage it.
Yeah, because like I mean, think of the guys behind like Starachi and Brooks.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, if they're the same year, like they know they're not starting.
Yeah, and they don't transfer out. Like that's why I said this in a previous video. It was so insane for like people are like, I can't believe that Michael Beard transferred out of Penn State. It goes, well, why couldn't you believe it? He wasn't starting. He'd been there for a few years. He was a very highly touted recruit. And they're like,
And a
yeah, but like who
transfer
leaves?
took the spot from him.
Yeah, and people are like, well, who leaves Penn State? I go, well, because usually you've seen guys lose a wrestle off and just be like, no, that's fine. I mean,
I mean,
Anthony
NC
Cassar.
State runs into that all the time.
Yeah, and they have guys that transfer out. Anthony Cassar had his moment of glory when he beat at 197.
He beat Colin Moore.
He beat Colin Moore, and then they go, "What are you gonna do now?" He goes, "I'm gonna go back to the backup team
Yeah.
behind
Yeah. What are you
behind
gonna do
Shakur
now?
Rasheed."
Oh, I'm gonna go back to the bench.
Yeah, and everyone's like, "That's insane. You know what the heck?" And then he's like, "Okay, but Penn State manages that."
Well, yeah.
And
I mean, Kassar managed it
yeah,
great because then he
yeah,
won the title the next year at a weight class
and
up.
as a guy as the backup
In the
beating the number
Bay,
one ranked guy in the
Gable.
nation, and then people go, "Why don't you just transfer to be the number 197 somewhere else?" There, he does interviews. He goes, "I have faith in the program. I believe in what my coaches tell me and want what's best for me." And so I stayed, and it turned out it worked out well.
Yeah,
But if it didn't work out well, he was going to stay regardless.
that's true. Yeah.
Like that's what I mean. Like for somehow they're able to manage these guys. I
I
don't know
guess you
what
got to
they
be
do.
there to really
Yeah,
understand it.
exactly. So 10 guys deep at 125. Congratulations to Nathan Desmond. That's awesome that you committed. I think Penn State is finally going to get an All-American eventually at 125. Nico
Well, I mean,
Megaludis.
yeah, because they had freaking what's his face, Hildebrandt
Yeah,
returning All American, and then he didn't All American from when he was with Penn State, which was
yeah.
wild. That like you'd think he's in the Penn State room. Of course, he's going to improve
He's
upon.
going to just jump a level.
I guess it's like, oh, maybe he should have stayed at Central
Yeah,
Michigan.
it's crazy. It's so the 125 story of Penn State is wild. I mean, off the top of my head, I was like, oh, like Penn State can get an All-American at 33, 41, 49 prior to the injury. 57, 65, 74, 84, 97, 285. And I was like, oh, just missing the one.
Yeah, well, yeah. Penn State wants to be the first team to get 10 All American or 10 finalists.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's they definitely. I said this. I think they could have 7 guys in the finals prior to the injury of Shane Van Ness.
Potentially, it's yeah.
I think 41 is a possibility. I thought
I mean, it's possible, but I
it's
wouldn't.
possible. I'm not saying probable. I'm saying possible.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
said
yeah. It's
41.
possible.
I said 49. Shane Van Ness. I said 57.
Well, I mean, yeah, he did it last year, so you'd
Yeah,
imagine he'd find
I'd
his way
say
back.
74, 84, 97, 285.
Yeah. Well, you wouldn't say 65 in a lot of other videos. You're like
Well, that's what I said, but I'd say
the whole thing.
I could definitely see making it at 65. And, like I said, if the red shirts worked out a little differently, they could have even had a finalist at 33 potentially.
Oh yeah.
Like you're talking about a team that could possibly put 9 guys in the finals and then have their 10th not even All American.
Yeah. That's
Like
not a good
that's
look for the
and
10th ones.
all that Penn State doesn't just want to win; they want to dominate. And I know that they're like, "Oh, that's cool that we have 9 guys, but we're really focused on this 10th." Like that's
There's
they don't
definitely
focus
a
on the
lot
great;
of
they focus
focus
on
on that
the
10th.
yeah. And how focused are on the 10th are they? That they just got 10 commits or current rosters for the 125 spot.
Yeah, that is bananas to think about that they
Insane.
get that much time and effort into just this one weight to try and get it to the level that they want it to be. Where yeah, I mean it's where every team would want it to be, but
Yeah.
still.
Yeah. I mean, it's just with NIL now and
So who do you think's going to commit next? Do you think it's Blaze?
I could see Blaze. I don't know for sure that he would commit there. I could definitely see it though.
Purdue's got him locked up.
Yeah, I really feel like Purdue does have him. I mean, there's a huge aspect to having family there.
Yeah.
Um, uh,
You don't think
I wonder if Leo DeLuca would commit there. No, I think didn't he commit recently, Leo DeLuca?
I don't know if he did. I remember what's his face. I remember Knox committing to Cornell. I would have laughed if Knox decommitted to Cornell after the
Yeah, Leo DeLuca. So Leo DeLuca committed to Iowa recently.
Oh, DeLuca at Iowa. Oh.
Yeah.
I remember after Who's Number One, there was a lot of people saying that they were hoping that since these two were practice partners, that they were gonna end up as a 1-2 punch at the same
Cornell.
team. But nope, they're mortal enemies. So Iowa and Cornell. I mean, Iowa and Cornell never really match up with one another.
No, not really.
Cornell just, cruises around everywhere else.
I just think it's funny though. You got, Luke Lilladall, who's a senior, 126, his practice partner, Nathan Desmond, a junior, 120, and they both commit to the same school for the same weight class.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Like I would love to be a fly on the wall watching Wyoming Seminary practice. So they're both, wearing their Penn State gear with their, Penn State sticker on the headgear, and it's like, oh, like this is gonna be a wrestle off in like 2 years.
Yeah.
So I'm sure the Wyoming Seminary coach is like, ha ha ha, this is great. Like they're just gonna keep pushing each other harder and harder in the practice room, and we're just gonna dominate everybody.
This is only good for everyone. But
They got the 2025 class for Penn State is shaping up to be pretty good.
I'm not surprised. I mean, I feel like Kale's created something that basically recruits itself at this point. I mean, I don't know how much effort they put into like even getting like the transfers like Truex and Nagao, or like I feel like they might have just gotten like, hey, interest in coming. Okay, cool. Come on down. Like
Even with for those of you guys that watch, like Flo did like a short film on like the high school recruiting, the day
Oh, yeah.
one, and I think it followed Anthony Knox actually specifically. And they talk
Yeah.
about like, oh, the first person to call him and whatnot. And then there's a whole point in the video where he's like, I just got a call from Coach Kale. And it was like midday, into the next day of recruiting, like not one of those midnight calls. And there's a whole clip on like, wow, like it's just so amazing, like to have, to be speaking to Coach Kale, who, sidebar is not the first person that's called him.
Yep.
But
That's
like
true.
just the power of Coach Kale and the Penn State wrestling room to have.
What actually is interesting about that is he committed to Cornell. Cornell was the first school to call him at midnight.
Exactly.
It was what's his face? Kellen.
Yep.
So clearly that call paid off.
Oh yeah. But wrestling aside, like Cornell's a great academic school. I think that anybody that has a chance to go there,
Oh yeah.
I tell my guys too now that are getting ready for commitments. They're like, oh, I want to go to this school, I want to go to that school, and I was like, well, focus on the actual academics of it as well, because wrestling ends one day, and you don't want to be like, oh, well,
What am I doing
35,
after this?
yeah, 35, and like looking for your job, like having no job, be like, oh, well, in high school I was really good, in college I was pretty good too. Like,
In
oh,
college,
that's
I
cool.
was
Like,
pretty good too.
like,
Wasn't too bad.
you
But
know what? Just tell that to the bank when they go to foreclose on your house. So, I know Mike's coached some guys that are, on some pretty really really top rosters in college now.
yeah, no, yeah, some, yeah, here and there.
Yeah.
You get some kids that really go for it, so those are always good ones to coach. They really try to excel, and you do everything you can for them. But and then speaking of Purdue, you got to give a shout out to former Purdue wrestler
Anthony Falbo,
Ayo.
multiple time national champion in high school, multiple time All-American in high school, one of the top assistant coaches in the nation. And he just got his blue belt in jiu-jitsu.
I
He's
didn't know that.
he's protecting and serving still as a officer, and he just got took his national champion wrestling abilities to the jiu-jitsu mat, and he's been just beating the crap out of guys.
Hey, I mean, yeah, it's similar but different.
Yeah, similar. He's enjoying it. We talked about it tonight, but shout
That's
out to Anthony Falbo.
Ayo, Anthony Falbo. Well, let us know what you think about Penn State's 125 situation. Do you think they should recruit more? Do you think they've done enough? You think the 10 guys that they're choosing from, you think that one of them can get the job done and find their way to the podium, or do you think they got to go back to the drawing board and even with these incoming recruits that have made the commitments, that they just got to find someone else, because they don't, even them, they won't even get it done. I mean, I feel like with the likes of Lilladall, he's definitely on paper likely to do it, but
It's pretty good.
Who else should Penn State target? Who else should they try to recruit at 125? Maybe we could get it to a 16-man bracket for the wrestle off.
Have a whole tournament for Penn State's 125.
Yeah, I'd like to see that.
Open tryouts like Invincible.
Yeah, open tryouts. See who comes through the woodwork. maybe Anthony Ferrari will come down from 49 to be like, I can
Maybe
be the 25. But yes, thank you for watching. We appreciate you being here with us. And yeah, make sure you don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll catch you next time.
Thanks for watching. We are Cactus Wrestling, and we'll see you next time on our next video.